Welcome to Glasgow, everyone. The COP26 meeting officially kicks off today. I'm delighted to be joined by Akshat Rathi, our star climate change reporter, to have a look at exactly what we're expecting today and maybe some of the disappointment that we had at the G20. But first of all, 30,000 delegates and security is tight.
It's been amazing to see the rainbow of humanity. I was here yesterday. But of course, there is, because of the pandemic, really a lot of security around. So you have to get a COVID test, you have to go through an airport-style security. We got here early, so the queues were not that long, but we are expecting the queues to be quite long.
Yeah, Bloomberg team, always the first to on the ground. Talk to me a little bit about the G20 and the fact that because we didn't have a communique with a lot of teeth, it puts in jeopardy the talks here at COP26.
So the G20 represent about 80% of all emissions. So what they say really matters. And what we got was some progress. So they agreed to stop financing coal power plants abroad, but they did not phase out coal domestically. They agreed to, for the first time, reduce methane emissions, but they did not put a target or a date on when they will do that. And so there is clearly a political statement being made, but not with precise dates and targets, and that's what COP26 is all about, because there is a ticking clock and we need to be able to reduce emissions. So I hope that what happened at the G20 will give some push for what happens here in the negotiations.
So here there are 200 countries.
There are almost 200 countries over here. So it shows the inequality of emissions, right? 20 countries for 80% and the remaining 180 countries for 20% of emissions. But because of those 180 countries being one of the most vulnerable countries, we will get a lot of push on doing more.
Akshat, so the Brazilian president is not coming at COP26, but we're actually expecting them to pledge to do a lot more on climate.
Yes, so every country has to submit what is called a nationally determined contribution. It's just an official document saying we will reduce emissions by this, doing this. And what we have as a Bloomberg scoop is that Brazil is going to announce a net zero emissions by 2050 pledge. And more importantly, they're going to announce the ending of deforestation by 2030. Now, they are home to the Amazon, and that would be a really big deal for the planet.
Actually, what other leaders are you looking out for today? Who are the most important people talking that can actually put money to where the cause is?
So Joe Biden will be here, and of course, as the second largest emitter, and one that does not yet have the domestic climate law that Biden had promised. I'd be keen to hear what he has to say. Prime Minister Modi of India will be here, and India, of course, hasn't submitted an NDC yet. And so we are keen to see whether he's going to announce something special, something more ambitious. And then I'm interested in the president of Sri Lanka, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, because Sri Lanka is a developing country and it's announced a net zero by 2050 target. That is not easy for a country whose emissions are on the rise and doesn't have the financial heft of rich countries to be able to do that.
Actually, so this is on the back, of course, the Paris Agreement, which was 2015. How much have we done since then?
Yeah. So the day-to-day of the news, I would like us to not lose sight of the progress that has happened. So in Paris, world leaders came and set some ambitious goals, but they were all very vague. In the last 5 years, we've got clarity on how to actually meet them with this target of net zero by 2050. And that's become a rallying cry around the world. It's not just countries, but businesses too, as you may have heard from lots and lots of large businesses setting a net zero by 2050 target. I think that's been probably the biggest progress since Paris. And now Glasgow is about executing on what that means.
But if we don't have this execution, do we just stay with the Paris commitments?
So the execution is about meeting the Paris commitments, because even today, before Paris, the world was on track to reach 4 degrees Celsius, maybe 5 degrees Celsius of warming, which would be catastrophic, right? But now, in the last 5 years, we've been able to come to 2.7 degrees Celsius. Still not meeting the Paris goal of 2 degrees Celsius or 1.5 degrees Celsius, but there is progress. And hopefully, what we see here, by the time we leave, maybe the temperature target comes a little bit down.
Actually, very quickly, so the leaders are here today and tomorrow, and then it's Finance Day, Wednesday and Thursday.
That's correct. It's Finance Day, Wednesday, and then it's Energy Day, Thursday. And so we expect a number of announcements around private financing. So we know the former Bank of England Governor, Mark Carney, will be here, and he's trying to corral world banks all around the world to try and come to this $100 trillion figure that he hopes can be put towards the transition in the next 30 years.
Akshat, thanks so much. Akshat Rathi, and of course, Bloomberg will be here throughout the next 2 weeks.